Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hogan's Headlines. This is Dylan Hogan back at it again. I am so happy to be back. I'm sorry for missing out on a couple episodes for a couple days. I was sick, I was out of town. It was just a whole bunch of stuff going on, but I am back, ready to put out these episodes like candy again. And I am so stoked to get back to where I am at this episode. We're writing back to kind of recap the last weekend, which was the first weekend of March. Currently, today it is March 9th, which is a Thursday. I'm going to try and put this episode out today so you guys can get this information as soon as possible. But I am stoked. I'm going to recap last weekend a little bit. That's kind of past news, so not really as important, but I still kind of want to go over a couple things. And then I'm going to look forward, excuse me, I'm going to look forward to the next weekend and what we have to offer. So let's jump right into it. NBA news has been popping off the party. I don't know if that's an actual saying, but I'm going to make it up today. First story, biggest story of the weekend was definitely the Ja Morant situation. For some of you who may not know, there was a whole situation of him bringing a gun and putting on Instagram Live, getting him suspended and taken away from the team for a couple days. He's missed the last two games. He's most likely going to miss at least another four more. I don't really want to jump into the story and the whole, him punching a teenager and the gun and blah, blah, blah. I think that is news for a different podcast. My podcast is based solely off of sports and sports statistics and sports play. So I'm going to leave all the drama out of it, and I'm going to let you go on to a different podcast if you want to check that out. One podcast I do want to plug real quick is JJ Redick and Tommy Alters, The Old Man and the Three. It is my favorite podcast. They kind of glance over the topic, but I love the podcast. I think it's the best podcast out there. So if you get the chance, go check it out. Sorry, I'm still kind of dealing with a little bit of sore throat. But let's jump into what the Grizzlies have been doing without Ja Morant. So LA, I'm sorry, apologies. Memphis has had a couple games without Ja. Most recently, they played the Clippers on March 5th. They were down 67-61 without Ja Morant. I'm sorry. Yes, they were up 67-61 at halftime, and then they gave up a 51-point third quarter to the Clippers, and the Clippers won by how much they won by? A lot. They won. I'm sorry, my notes say right here that they were up 15 in the third quarter. So they were up 15 in the third quarter. The Clippers have been very up and down since the Russ acquisition, but this was more of a say on the Grizzlies, who you can just tell right now is like their team is not nearly what it is without Ja Morant. They've also been missing a couple other key pieces. Dylan Brooks has been yapping his mouth and getting himself suspended and kicked out of games. Tyus Jones has been in and out. Steven Adams has been in and out. So it's not just the Ja Morant problem, but it is an entire team issue. And I think that this team we were all so high on early in the year, but they have just been so bad in the last few weeks that I don't think we can consider them as Western Conference contenders anymore. It doesn't matter that they're second or third in the West anymore. If Ja Morant's going to be out for an extended period of time, people are talking about the rest of the season. I don't think that's likely, but it's a possibility still. I think that this team is just not ready anymore. They were, in my opinion, they were the next best team in January to make, besides the Nuggets, a run through the West. They were stacked. They were hungry. They had a fire in their stomach. But here they are with off-court issues, poor play. They're losing to teams like the Lakers, the Clippers. They can't lose these games. Like they can't. They have to win these games if they want to stay as contenders, but they're not. Let's jump into how they played against the Lakers, where Jaren Jackson, who I have been talking about on the last episode being a Defensive Player of the Year candidate and who I think should win them in the Defensive Player of the Year, got destroyed by Anthony Davis all day. 30 some points, 20 some rebounds, and he just didn't play well at all. Like, this is another main issue with the team, is that they're just so up and down. And we can't trust the team to make a run in the West or make a run in the playoffs. They're 4-6 without Ja Morant this year. Well, I should now say 4-7 since it was the Lakers game last. And let's just look at the upcoming schedule to see if they can really pick up some games before the end of the regular season. They have tonight against Golden State in Memphis on TNT. And then Saturday, they have at home against Dallas. And then March 13th, they have at Dallas. March 15th at Miami, excuse me. And then March 17th at San Antonio. I would say at best, they can win 3 of those games because San Antonio, they have to beat. If they lose, then the season's cooked. Just throw them in the oven. But Golden State's good. Dallas is unbelievably great offensively and unbelievably terrible defensively. And then Miami has been interesting, to say the least, because I think that they are ultra talented, yet injuries and poor play have really set them back. If you look past San Antonio, they have versus Golden State, versus Dallas again, and then they have 2 home games against Houston, which are must wins. They have at Atlanta versus Orlando. Like they have winnable games coming up. But if they drop some of these games, then we just have to say, okay, you're done. You can't lose against Houston. You can't lose against San Antonio. Honestly, I feel like you really can't lose against Dallas because they're one of your rivals in your division. And they are just, they're too talented, even without John Morant, to drop some of these games. Their strength of schedule after this is not really that bad. Like Dallas and Golden State are the 2 hardest teams they play. They have Milwaukee one time at the end of the year. They have Clippers 2 more times, but I just don't see how they can lose more than, I would say, 6 games the rest of the year. They just can't. I don't think that they can and look more like contenders. Let's jump into the Lakers because they have been on a pretty good run as of late. They're 7-3 in their last 10. LeBron's been out for a little while. He's looking like he's going to be out for an extended period of time, which is unfortunate because I think that they're just hitting their stride right now. And I really wish that he was here to show off just how talented and good the team is. They just beat the Grizzlies. They just beat Golden State. They narrowly lost to Minnesota. They beat OKC. And then the strength of schedule, just like Memphis, isn't that hard at the end of the year. They have versus Toronto tomorrow on March 10th versus the Knicks, who Knicks have been great. So I'm not going to say anything bad about the Knicks. The Knicks have been really good as of late. So that might be a game that they drop. But that one's going to be on ESPN. So check that one out on Sunday night. They have at New Orleans, at Houston versus Dallas versus Orlando. They have a couple games at the end of the year that I'm a little worried for. Like they play Phoenix 2 more times. They play Clippers. Other than that, I mean, they play Dallas, they play the Knicks, but I just think that, again, one of those teams that are too talented, even without LeBron and with D'Angelo Russell being in and out of the lineup, they're just, again, talented enough to where they can win a good amount of these games. Right now, they are set up. I'm pretty sure last time I checked, they're in the 9 spot. Let me make sure that that is still correct. Sorry, just give me one quick moment. I don't know how to work a computer sometimes. How fun is that? Hope you guys are all having a great day. Yes, the Lakers are still set up in the 9 spot. They're 2 games behind the Clippers and the Warriors, who are tied for 5 spot. So they could even catch a couple more games and jump out of the play-in and into the playoffs, which would be fantastic. They're behind the 8 seed Mavericks and the 7 seed Timberwolves, who are both a game and a half ahead of the Lakers. Lakers are also tied with the New Orleans Pelicans for the 9 spot. So I trust the Lakers, actually. I think that they are probably one of the best positions among the play-in playoff teams. I like what they've been doing recently. I like how AD's looked. I like how Jared Vanderbilt's been playing. Troy Brown Jr.'s been great. Austin Reeves has all been fantastic. D'Angelo Russell should be back soon. I know that he was questionable last game instead of being ruled out. Even with LeBron, this team has a chance to win a couple more games. If I had to guess, looking at their schedule, let's see how many games they have left. I'm pretty sure that they have around 18. I would love for them to win about 12 of those games and at least take an over 500 record for the rest of the year. I think that that would do wonders for them because I think that the Clippers and the Warriors have been kind of up and down as of late. I know that the Clippers are 4-6 in their last 10. Warriors are 6-4, but they've lost their last 2. These teams, the Mavericks are 3-7 in their last 10. They are sitting middle of the pack. We can't really trust them. KD, I'm not going to even mention really the Suns because I don't think that they can jump the Suns, but KD hurt himself and didn't play last game. I think that the Lakers have a really good chance of making something happen and even without LeBron, jumping into the playoff and maybe grabbing the 6th seed. That would be best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they stay around the 10 spot. But I just think that with the strength of schedule coming up, I think they do beat the Raptors next game. I don't know if they're gonna beat the Knicks though. I really want to get into a game that happened last weekend, which was Dallas versus Phoenix, which in my opinion was a top 5, maybe 3-5 game that happened this season. It was competitive, it was feisty. Phoenix was playing hard. KD, Devin Booker both went for 30 plus. Luka, Kyrie both went for 30 plus, but Luka missed the game tying shot at the end at the buzzer beater, which was an easy layup. It was really, really a good game to watch. If you get the chance, check out those review and the highlights that happened after that game. I kind of want to just recap the last weekend real quick for NBA and talk about a couple teams, a couple notable teams. So one I want to mention is the winners of last weekend, which was definitely the Minnesota Timberwolves. They won 3 straight games. They beat the Clippers, the Lakers, and Sacramento, all play-in teams away. They jumped to the 6th seed at one point. They're now the 7th seed. The Clippers jumped back to the 6th seed, but they were definitely the winners of last weekend. They did just drop their last game, and they played the 76ers. They lost by 20-some points, so maybe that was just a one weekend show, but they looked great last weekend. Anthony Edwards has been great. Cat's been great. Pat Bev is not on the team anymore. I don't know why I mentioned him, but they were great last weekend. Another team I want to mention is the losers of last weekend, which was definitely the Utah Jazz. They lost 3 straight games to some mediocre teams. They lost to San Antonio at home and at OKC twice. They can't lose these games if they want to stick in the playoffs. They're now the 13 seed. At one point, they were the 6, 7, 8 seed, and now they're 13. They've lost their last 4. As I mentioned before, when I was doing the review the preview for what the NBA playoffs could look like, I just don't trust them. I thought that this was coming, and I think it's going to continue to happen. I don't trust them. I just don't think that they are going to be a team that is worried about anymore because of what happened over the trade deadline. But I like Utah. I just, again, like I mentioned, and you can check out that episode again, it's just not going to work the rest of the year. It's not. Sorry. Let's jump into what happened yesterday, Wednesday, March 8th. Hawks beat the Wizards in Washington, D.C. by 2 points. Trae Young had 28, 10, and 3 steals, beating Kristaps Porzingis 43 points. The Celtics took a huge game because they couldn't drop any more games. They've lost too many games last week. They won by 22 at home against the Blazers. Jason Tatum had 30.7 rebounds. The Cavs went to Miami, took the game by 4 points. The Pelicans beat the Mavericks at home in New Orleans. CJ McCollum had 32. Mavericks have been slipping. Even though they made like a late push at the end, scoring 41 points in the fourth quarter, just can't trust this team right now. The Bulls took a huge upset victory against the Nuggets in Denver. Zach LaVine had 29. Nikola Jokic only had 18 points, 12 rebounds. The Suns took a huge win by 31 points in Phoenix without KD to the Thunder. Devin Booker had a huge 44-point game. And the Clippers beat the Raptors at home by 8. Kawhi had 24, 12 rebounds, 3 steals. The Claw. A great day. I'm excited for tonight's game. Let's recap tonight's. Or let's look ahead to tonight's games. We got the Pistons at the Hornets, which is a snooze fest. Don't waste your time. That game is not important. Pacers and Rockets, same deal. Magic and Jazz, pretty much the same way. Grizzlies and Warriors will be a great game. How's the Grizzlies going to look without Ja? Steph Curry's back. It's going to be a great game. Check it out. It's going to be on TNT. We got the Bucks and the Nets. Another great game. Bucks have been unbelievable as of late. Nets have also looked really good as of late. Mikal Bridges, love what he's doing right now. And then my game of the night is going to be 2 teams that are pretty much equally matched. Knicks are facing the Kings in Sacramento on TNT. Kings have been a huge, huge, huge team this season. They've looked a lot better than usual. And the Knicks are on an historic streak right now. They had a 9-game winning streak as of late. So that'll be a dog slugfest. I'm excited. A dog slugfest. Another new word I'm creating on this podcast today. A dog slugfest. Let's look forward to the weekend. What do we got? Let's see. We got the Lakers playing tomorrow. Home against the Raptors. Nuggets and Spurs, don't care about that. I'm trying to see if there's any good games coming up for this weekend. Oh, Mavericks and Grizzlies are going to be great. Suns and Kings, Bucks and Warriors, review of the playoffs. It's our review of the Yeah, review the playoffs. I'm sorry. And then that's going to be an ABC. I'm just excited for this weekend. I'm sorry. I can't speak because I'm so excited for these week. We got Knicks Clippers, Nets and Nuggets. Wow, there's some really good games this weekend. You guys gotta watch some basketball this weekend. Please, please, please. Ooh, Lakers and Knicks. Come on now. Sit down and watch some basketball this weekend. It's in your blood. You need to. Let's jump over to a different sport. Let's talk about baseball. I love baseball. I've talked about it before. Being a big Dodgers fan, I'm so torn up and sad about Gavin Lux out for the year. It's just really unfortunate because they went all in on Gavin Lux this year. They didn't go and try and get Xander, Bogaerts, Dansby Swanson, Carlos Correa. I mean, they did kind of dabble and maybe look into getting them, but they really put all the chips into Gavin Lux. They even spoke to the Yankees about Isaiah Kiner Falefa, but that didn't pan out. It maybe will at the point of the year this year, but I just don't see it happening. Now taking over shortstop, we can look at Miguel Rojas or Chris Taylor. I like what the Dodgers offer this year. I think that there's not going to be as many distractions. Trevor Bauer's off the team. They're not as stacked as usual, so teams aren't just calling them the championships at the beginning of the year. Dave Roberts hasn't announced that they're the champions because he did a couple years ago at the beginning of the year, and that was not great. I kind of want to jump into one thing that isn't really talked about a lot, which is a huge deal this year, are all the rule changes that have happened in the MLB. So there are 30 spring training games this year, and there have been more pitching violations than hitting because of the pitch clock that has been uh, brought into the game. I don't expect the pitching violations to outdo the hitting violations throughout the entire year because I think that pitchers will actually adapt better than hitters will. The pitchers do have the pitch comm, which essentially, if you don't know what the pitch comm is, it presses buttons on yourself to communicate between catcher and pitcher, depending on which pitch you want to do, which location, blah, blah, blah. Um, once they get used to it, I think that they can manipulate it and make it to an advantage for the pitcher and the catcher. I'm a little worried because I think that this will also take away from what the main watching point of baseball is, which is people love to see home runs. They love to see hits. They love to see games like how the Astros and Dodgers had in Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, where it was just run, home run, hit, triple, double. It was offense bonanza. And I think that that's what gets baseball these views. And that was one of the issues that they had with baseball and why they introduced the pitch clock is to get more offense out, to speed up games, to take games from 3 hours to 2.5 hours, which I get. I totally understand what they were trying to do. I just don't know if this is the right move to getting those results. I think that, let me just go over what the hitters have to do. Hitters are required to be in the batter's box and ready with 8 seconds remaining on the pitch clock. We did see one of the biggest things of spring training, and I think will be a huge talking and focal point of this pitch clock era, is we saw Carl Connolly of the Braves violate at the end of a game. It was tied, 2 outs in the ninth inning, bottom of the ninth inning. They're playing the Red Sox, bases are loaded, typical movie style kind of moment. And the end of the game in a tie because he violated. He wasn't ready by the 8 seconds. So the game ended in a tie. Crowd was pissed. It was crazy. I watched it over and I was in shock that this is how games are going to be now. Obviously, when it gets regular season, no team's going to tie. They're going to go into extras, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that a game could go into extras because of this situation, I think is dangerous. I think that teams are going to hate it. I think that, I mean, obviously the pitching team won't hate it because they're getting out of a jam. But I think that if it's at a home team, it's going to be craziness. Teams are going to go crazy. It's going to switch momentum. It's going to be something that hitters are going to get used to more than pitchers. I think that pitchers will make it into an advantage for them really soon. I kind of want to go over to what the pitchers have to do as well. And another big deal for me is the change in bases. They switched up to bases a little bit. Now they're 3 inches bigger. And the pitchers can now only step off the rubber twice unless the third time results in an out. Stolen bases have also spiked in the minors with this rule, as it when a pitcher steps off the bag twice, the runner on base, who is usually on first, now has a runner first or second usually, now has a huge advantage being able to take the next base unless the pitcher gets them out. It's a whole big thing. Baseball can be a little confusing, so I understand this is kind of a confusing topic. But I think that we will have to just wait and see how this goes, because I just really don't know with these gigantic rule changes what is going to happen. We've seen spring training games have ended with pretty low scores. There have been some couple high scores, so it's not that games are always going to end in 2-1, but the games have been ending 2-1 more than 10-5. I just don't really know what to expect. We're gonna have to just wait for the regular seasons to start. I know it's excuse me, end of March is going to be the start of the season. I'm so stoked for it. I do love baseball. I'm excited to go check out a couple games, but I'm just worried. Honestly, I'm usually an optimistic person. I love looking forward. I'm a glass half full kind of person, but right now pitch clock is looking glass half empty for me. World Baseball Classic is coming up and it's starting. I want to go over a couple teams that I think will make a huge jump and a huge improvement. So Dominican Republic is a team to look out for. They got the best chance to win. They have Manny Machado, Julio Rodriguez, Wander Franco. This team is stacked. I am just ready to watch them play. USA's got Paul Goldschmidt, Mike Trout, Nolan Arenado, Mookie Betts, Pete Alonso. That team's stacked. Japan's got Shohei Ohtani, Hugh Darvish, Lars Nootbaar, Masataka Yoshida. I'm excited for this classic. I think that this is going to be better than most classics that we've seen in the last couple of years. So I'm really, really stoked to check out. If you get the chance, please watch a little bit of the World Baseball Classic. It is truly some great baseball. And honestly, it doesn't get better when you see teams like Japan versus US, Japan versus DR, or US versus, DR. It's just going to be some great games. Baseball is fun to watch, especially when these teams come with, which are essentially all-star teams. Um, Kind of shifting over baseball, I want to talk about the Dirtbags. They had a huge weekend last weekend. They're on a 4-game win streak. They took 2 or 3 against Seattle a few weeks ago. They went to the LeClaire Classic in Greensville, North Carolina. On March 3rd, they beat Georgetown 18-3, scoring 12 in the first inning. Every Dirtbag in the starting lineup had 1 hit and 1 run. 8 out of 9 of them had an RBI. On March 4th, they played the number 9 seed in the country, East Carolina, and beat them 3-2. Rocco Pepe, 3 for 5, 1 run, 1 RBI. Graham Osmond pitched, started the game, and went 4.1 innings with 3 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts, with Sky Wells getting the W, 1.2 innings, 0 hits. And on March 5th, they played Indiana in the LeClaire Classic Championship and beat them 10-4. Yeah, Indiana got smoked. In those 3 games, they were crowned the LeClaire Classic champions. They outscored their opponents 31-9, which is the most by tournament champs since 2019, which was Utah. They had 32. Jack Hammond in the last game went 3 for 4 with 1 run and 4 RBIs. Nico Zegelin got the W, 5.2 inning pitch, 5 hits, 4 runs, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. In the first 5 innings, he had 7 strikeouts and 1 earned run. And then on March 7th, which was 2 days ago, they played UCLA. I was a little worried for that game. Honestly, let me just check what happened because it was more of a scrimmage game. So it was more of a scrimmage game. So let's check out what happened. Sorry for the delay. What happened? I'm sorry, this computer is going craziness. And they lost 6-7. Darn. That's all right. They put up a fight. Next weekend, March 11th, they got versus South Florida. March 11th again, doubleheader versus South Florida. And then on March 12th versus South Florida here in Long Beach at Bull Diamond Blair Field. Thank you for listening. One thing I didn't want to mention today because it's very sad is the loss that our Long Beach basketball men's team took at the Big Ten West tournament. They lost to Cal Poly in a huge underdog win for Cal Poly. I don't really want to get into it because it is sad, and I was really hoping that this year, my last year here at Long Beach, would be the year that they make a huge run. That's not happening. Lost in the first round to a team that they should have beat. They had an 86% chance of winning, and they lost. They let up 50-some points in the second half. Well, it is what it is. Thank you for listening. Hopefully this episode was one that you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations or things you want me to talk about, please feel free to let me know. I I'm always happy for recommendations. If you want me to bring on a few guests, I would love to do that as well. I'm going to try to bring on a few, and I really, really, really enjoy you guys still listening to this podcast. I'm promised next weekend I'll have a better schedule. I promise that I'll be better at putting out episodes. I'll be more prepared. Just busy and sick last weekend, so it kind of threw a wrench in my plans. But thank you for listening. Love you guys. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. And as always, stay good, stay safe.